everyone. Can you hear me okay? All right, so we're going to get started. Welcome everyone to the first Big Ideas information session. I know it's still early in the academic year, so I'm really thrilled to see you guys in this room. And we're really excited to hear about all the projects that you have in mind and the things that you are thinking about working on over the next few months. So before we kick off our presentation about how to participate in Big Ideas, I'd like to first introduce our team. So I'm Adrienne Chuck. I am the program manager for Big Ideas, and I've been with the contest for 3 years now. Philip Denny is the director of the contest and ultimate veteran. He's been around for 12 years now and has seen every project come through Big Ideas. And then we have Junie Moon in the back, who just joined us as the innovation ambassador for UC Berkeley. So Junie will be helping with a lot of the outreach and then also some of the advising with the Big Ideas contest as well. And that being said, I would highly encourage all of you to come in and talk to us. I think the earlier you start to get into this process and come into advising and start to talk about your ideas, the better your proposal will be in shape when the deadline comes around on November 15th. I'd also like to give a shout out to anyone who's web streaming into this event. As some of you know, Big Ideas is not only open to UC Berkeley, we're open to the entire UC system, and then Makerere University in Uganda as well. So we're even international. So if you have any questions and you're streaming this event online, just please email bigideas@berkeley.edu, and then we'll be able to answer some of your questions. I'd also like to say this is a very back and forth event. I don't want to present in front of you for 30 minutes and talk straight, so please feel free to interrupt me at any point, ask questions. I know your peers also have the same questions, and let's just make this really interactive and a really fun and casual affair. And also, this is one of the few opportunities that you can meet people across campus that are working in the same space, right? Like social impact, entrepreneurship-focused students. So meet each other, talk to each other, and get feedback on your ideas as early as possible, because you just might make some connections that might take you through an entire lifetime that you weren't expecting either. So, first, any questions for me or the team before we kick it off? Yeah.
Did you say the deadline was November 15th?
So it's November 15th. That's noon, 12 p.m. If all of you picked up a brochure, the deadline is on the brochure as well, and it's definitely on our website. All right. So first, I'm going to give a little bit of an intro to Big Ideas by playing this video and give you a sense of what kind of projects that have come through Big Ideas.
What makes an idea big?
I think what makes an idea big is that it goes outside the normal boundaries.
I think what makes an idea big is its potential for its impact in the community.
It's novel, it's unique, it's challenging, it's exciting.
The Big Ideas program seed funds and encourages student
Let's see if that clears up.
innovation for a better planet.
Undergraduate students are rarely recognized as producing innovative, cutting-edge ideas.
You know, it doesn't take a lot of money. It doesn't take a lot of, it doesn't take a 5-year PhD research project in order to do some of these things.
I heard about the Big Ideas program, and it was brought to our attention as a group, and we thought, hey, this would be a really great opportunity to kind of get the word out about our projects and see if we can get some support.
And it ends up being much more than a grant because it gives you that confidence to go forward. The fact that there's other people in the room and other people at Cal that are reviewing this and thinking, hey, you should go for this.
Having it was like one of the best things for our project. It really got us off the ground at a point where we needed that extra inspiration.
Yeah, knowing that the campus is supporting projects like this and that you have access to these resources has been very instrumental.
just the fact that big ideas existed and seemed willing to fund a project like this gave us hope, because our budget for dental is actually like under $200 a semester. And we saved the residents of Berkeley like probably $50,000 to $100,000 just through the services we have.
Capitalize on the creativity of the students. Don't tell them the solution. Give them the opportunity and let them come up with creative ideas.
We should disabuse ourselves of the idea that all smarts are with the professors. Students are just as smart, they're just younger, that's all.
We created a business plan for big ideas. So it really gave us that push to really follow through on this and give up our investment banking and consulting offers that we had. And as soon as we got the news that we had gotten the grant, I think that's the first time we said, hey, let's give up what we were doing and let's follow our passion.
The power of the small grant is that it allows students to experiment earlier in their lives. They don't need to wait to complete a PhD and get a faculty appointment to try something new. I think that's very important. Otherwise, we waste a whole kind of generation just waiting for the credentials to do something they have some capacity to do earlier.
What makes an idea big?
I think what makes an idea big is that it goes outside the normal boundaries and it really kind of surpasses what was already there and sets a precedent for something new.
I just want to point out something that's really important with that video that you may have not picked up. You saw 3 projects there. You saw one project that focused on sort of an international development technology that they were putting into Central America. You saw another one that was a social enterprise, the Back to the Roots project, which now employs 80 people here in Emeryville and is working throughout the world. And then you saw the Suitcase Clinic, which was organized by a student group here on campus doing service in the Berkeley community. So for-profits, nonprofits, social enterprises, service groups, these are all big ideas. And so it's really just important to point out that all shapes and sizes of ideas come through big ideas, and I'm sure whatever you're thinking about now in this room probably applies.
Yeah. So as Philip mentioned, the unifying characteristic with all these projects are that they're social impact focused and that they're student-led and student-initiated. And I know that with the plethora of resources that you have at the UC Berkeley campus in terms of entrepreneurship, a lot of you are wondering, well, what sets big ideas apart from the things you might see in terms of incubators and accelerators. And we are really early stage and we cater to social impact focused projects. And we really see ourselves as kind of the first step you get to get a bit of support so that you can go on and take part in these more coveted fellowships, these incubators and accelerators. And we're here to give you a lot of resources in order to do that. And just to give you a little bit of the history of big ideas, it started at UC Berkeley since 2006, but has since expanded to 11 campuses now, including UC Santa Barbara. Thanks for being here. And last year we had 326 applications, 55 finalists, and 45 winners. So we don't operate on a one winner take all model. We give a lot of seed funding, a little bit of seed funding to a lot of different projects to get them off the ground. Any questions? Yeah.
This is non-equity seed funding, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah. So this is a prize. This is a pure award for putting together a compelling idea. So no strings attached. If you are a scaling up team, are there any scaling up applicants in the room? No. So this is for all former Big Ideas winners that have gotten a prize in the past. There are a few more strings attached to the money that they receive through this proposal process. But this initial stage is just, it's a pure prize.
And what we always hear from students at the end of this journey in May, when this all concludes at our award celebration, is that, you know, initially it was the prize money, the $10,000 to $15,000 you can win through Big Ideas, that is sort of the incentive to get involved. But after you've gone through 9 months of information sessions, writing workshops, meeting with advisors, industry professionals, mentors, you've built your team, you've really sort of got invested in your idea. It's that confidence, it's that validation, and it's the networks and partnerships that you've developed that are even more meaningful than the $10,000 to $15,000 you may win in the end.
Which is a great segue into this next slide. So what can you get out of Big Ideas? For funding, it's up to $10,000 for a full proposal, but there's additional prize opportunities for you to get involved, like our People's Choice Video Contest or Grand Prize Pitch Day, where you can win up to a total of $18,000 if you take everything. Our biggest winner last year took away $15,000, so that will give you an idea of kind of the top winner, and then the average is about $5,000 per proposal. In addition to that, we'll give you tons of workshop and skills development opportunities, so networking events, writing workshops, budgeting workshops. We even have this program called our Practitioners in Residence, where we get topic area experts come in and do half-an-hour consultations with Big Ideas teams. So throughout the course of this year, just make sure to keep checking back on our website and definitely sign up for our bulletin so you're aware of all these resources that are available to you.
And along those lines, we hold advising hours all the time, Adrian and myself, and Junie as well, where students come to us. If we don't know the answer, as Adrian mentioned, I've been doing this 12 years, she's been doing it for 3. We have a network of 1,200 judges and mentors, and if you come to me and you say, I have a clean water project in Nigeria, we probably know somebody who has experience in that field, in that country, who can support you thinking through your idea. So we'll connect you with that individual. We do a lot of sort of concierge consulting where we pair individuals up with students for those one-off consultations. And then in the spring semester, there's a longer mentorship.
Yeah. Question?
Is Big Ideas, I know you said it's like a platform or stepping stone, but is it exclusive from joining with another incubator or accelerator? Can you do both at the same time?
That is a great question. So we actually had a team, we had a couple teams actually 2 years ago. One was called Dosed Education and the other was called Lifted. One focused on creating an easier data management process for special ed professionals. And the other one was a voice recorded system for Indian mothers to better educate their children and to give them more nutritional information for better childcare. And they both went through GSVC and Launch at the same time. So if those of you aren't aware of GSVC, it's a global social venture competition housed under Haas, and then Launch is an accelerator that's for profit that's housed under Launch.
And I would say those 2 projects were sort of exceptions. Most of the time projects start here at Big Ideas, and then we have great networks with Skydeck and Foundry and QB3 and the other incubators, accelerators, as well as some of the ones off campus, Hub Ventures, Better Ventures, and others. So, you know, the natural progression is you get started here with Big Ideas, you get those networks, you get those partnerships, and through those and through the validation of winning a competition like Big Ideas, which has a pretty big name on the campus and in the area, we're able to help you get placements in other accelerators, incubators.
Do any of you have the Wildfire app downloaded on your phone? Yeah? Okay, so they're also a Big Ideas team too. They won 2nd place in IT for Society a couple years ago, and then they went on to Skydeck afterwards, and now they're
Y Combinator as well.
and now Y Combinator. So that Wildfire. Yep. Yep. Started at UC Berkeley. All right. So each year we shift around our categories. If any of you participated in Big Ideas last year, you'll see that some of the categories changed, but this year we added 2 new ones. One is called Connected Communities, which is student focused. It essentially uses technology to promote civic engagement or collaborative decision making. And then the other one is Workforce Education and Development. The cursor was in the way. So developing different kind of innovative workforce promotion activities or education systems to kind of cater to the modern changing economy. Do you guys have any questions about these categories? No? It's a pretty balanced set. We released our Hardware for Good category, and that one is sponsored by Autodesk Foundation last year too. So yeah, we're really excited about these categories moving forward.
Yeah, if you were aware of the competition last year, we had an Improving Student Life category, which really focused on projects here in the Berkeley community, on the Berkeley campus. So we've integrated that with the Connected Communities category. So specifically, if you have a proposal that focuses on bettering the campus community through a software, that would be a Connected Communities type of project now.
Yeah, and the biggest question we get during these info sessions is, which category should I apply to? And I encourage you to go to each webpage and read over the descriptions, and then potentially even come to us and talk to us as advisors to figure out which is the best fit category for you. Okay, some quick rules and eligibility. So first of all, the team lead needs to be a matriculated student at an eligible campus. So I mentioned our 11 eligible campuses. As long as you're a currently enrolled student in one of those, you're fine. If you're an exchange student, unfortunately, you don't qualify for that. It's also important to note that the team lead is also our point of contact for all Big Ideas communications and has the final authority for determining how the pride is dispersed. So the team lead designation is actually quite important. Secondly, the project needs to be student-led and student-initiated. So this can't be a faculty research project that you're helping get a bunch of funding. It can't be a nonprofit program that you've worked for over a summer that you think could use some funding. This needs to come from you, and it needs to be relatively new and relatively novel as well. Next. So students submit each idea or proposal to only one category, which means if you have a proposal for a mobile app that reminds students to eat healthily throughout the course of the year, technically you could fit into global health, food systems, and connected communities, right? But you can only apply to one of those categories. What you can do, however, is submit as many proposals as you want. So you could even submit 3 proposals to global health, but you would be competing with yourself essentially because the proposals are reviewed based on each category. Does that make sense? Okay. And lastly, this is just for scaling up applicants and former winners. This year they have an entirely new set of rules, requirements, and eligibility. So just make sure you go to the Scaling Up webpage and check those.
Any questions on that? Because that's where I always have questions. Go ahead. Yeah, that's a great question, and we get that one a lot. I actually got that one today in one of my classes that I visited. So in the pre-proposal round, judges are asked, does this person or does this team have the people in place to implement the project if we give them funding, or have they identified the skill sets necessary to execute the project? So at this stage, especially in the pre-proposal stage, you don't have to have your team fully formed, but if your background is in CS and you need somebody on that project who can do the outreach and communications, you should identify that in your pre-proposal and sort of give a plan or an idea about how you're going to recruit that type of individual. And we've also had projects that the one person on the project could execute everything involved in the project, and it's been a one-person project. The average team is about 3 members.
Yeah, it's pretty. Oh, go ahead.
Have there been winners from have one-person projects run in the past?
Oh yeah, yeah. We have a couple great examples. I would say it's more the exception than the rule.
Yeah.
But we certainly have had teams with one member winning projects in the past. One was I can remember one from a few years ago. It was called, I'm trying to remember, The Secret Life of Moving Cows or something like this, where the student journaled the migration of cows through urbanized India. And so that was her project. She went to India. She was able to do it and document it on her own. She didn't need anything else. So that was one project. But that's more the exception than the rule because most social ventures take more than one person to launch.
Typically, they have a pretty strong partnership network already in place for them to be able to do it. But as you can imagine, it's really hard to do a startup just by yourself. Okay. All right. So before we go into the specific requirements that go into the pre-proposal, I'm just going to walk you through what to expect over the course of a year. So at its core, Big Ideas is a 2-stage proposal process that asks for a 3-page concept note due on November 15th, and then a 10 to 15-page full proposal that includes an implementation plan, a 1-year timeline, and a budget, and that's due March 7th, I believe. So let's go through what this fall semester, or at least these next few months, look like. Okay, we have another information session at the end of this month. And then I'd like to highlight our Innovators at Cal event on October 4th. So there's a poster of this event in the back, and it's one of the actual few opportunities at UC Berkeley where a bunch of the different entrepreneurship resources get together and put students from all of our networks into the same room so you can pitch your idea, recruit team members, get feedback on your idea. We're actually putting together a panel this year with Big Ideas alumni, Launch alumni, GSVC alumni, so it'll be really cool. And it's going to be over over in Banatao Auditorium in Sutarjadai. So I really encourage you guys to go there if you want to get into the space and meet other people who might be involved in joining your projects, or you could join their projects in reverse as well. And then our writing workshops start in October. So on October 10th, we have our pre-proposal writing workshop, and then the October 30th as well. And I'm going to go over just kind of really lightly what to expect for your what to put in your pre-proposal today. But I'm going to go in depth over these 2 writing workshops in October. So go over best practices, common mistakes, challenges, go over examples and things like that, so you get an idea of how to craft your proposal before the deadline.
And that's a great session because we do give a lot of, I mean, if you come to Advising, but also if you come to that event, we do give a lot of tips about things we've seen that have been very successful in the past and things that we've seen that have taken proposals sort of out of the running. So
Yeah.
it's good, useful from that point.
And then 2 days before the November 15th deadline, we have our mass editing blitz, which runs from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. for 2 days. And we essentially have half-hour advising sessions where you can have your proposal read by someone in our team. Maybe not 8 p.m., maybe 6 p.m. We'll see. We'll play around with the times.
What did you say?
I don't.
You said math editing blitz.
Oh. Mass editing blitz are massive. It's a lot of reading for us, definitely. But it's just the last effort for you to get your fine-tuned comments on your proposal and get it in top shape to submit by November 15th. And this is open to everyone. It's not just open to UC Berkeley. Actually, all of these things I should mention, the writing workshops, the editing blitz, advising, these can all be done remotely. And we're trying to offer these as much as we can to teams that are outside of UC Berkeley as well. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question regarding recruitment of other team members.
Yeah.
Suppose right now I'm a public policy student and I have an idea which requires a computer science student.
Yeah.
So how do I pair up, how do I find the right guy?
Absolutely. So computer science students are actually in really high demand because everybody wants to build some kind of app or something, right? I would say come to Innovators at Cal. Last year we actually did a huge push to get computer science students involved in big ideas and the other ventures because entrepreneurs are always looking for their tech person to do it. But there are also ways, if you let us know what your needs are and we come across these students in our network, because there's a lot of folks not just involved with big ideas, but at the Blum Center at large that have tech backgrounds and want to get involved and don't know how to connect with people, we tend to be kind of a meeting ground for them too. So let us know what your needs are. Any other questions?
And there's various courses that take on projects, like CS courses that take on projects that students pitch to them. There's hackathons that go on all the time. So we stay sort of tuned into these types of things and can always direct you to those types of resources.
Yep. So after you submit your pre-proposal, your proposal goes through a round of judging. So 6 to 8 judges will review your proposal, it'll get scored, and then from there we'll select a group of finalists to move on to the next round. So just to reiterate numbers, we had 326 applications last year and 55 finalists were moved into the next round. And you're notified in December of this, and when you're notified, you fill out a mentorship application form letting us know exactly what you want, and we go through our network of about 300 to 400 judges and mentors and try to recruit for your exact needs. So it's pretty time intensive on our part. It's highly personalized. We've had I think last year someone requested a biomedical entrepreneur with clinical experience working with pediatric patients with immunodeficiencies, preferably in low resource contexts. And we did a mass LinkedIn search to find this person and found a few candidates that were pretty great actually. So yeah, we do our best to try to support you to the best of our abilities too. Okay. And then after that, you work with them over the course of 7 weeks to put together a full proposal. It's a 10 to 15 page full proposal, and then we have a bunch of different opportunities you can get involved. So we have a poster session for the Connected Communities applicants. We have a People's Choice video contest where anyone who submitted a proposal can submit their video and have the public vote on it for $2,500 in an award. And then we have Grand Prize Pitch Day and award celebrations, which are kind of our end of the year big celebratory events as well.
And it's important to note, I think, that all of these opportunities that you see here are optional, right? What you have to do to compete in the competition is submit a 3-page pre-proposal by that March 15th deadline, and then if you're announced as a finalist, submit a 10 to 15-page full proposal in March of 2018. Everything else is optional. What we do find, though, is that the students that are, the most motivated, the hustling, the entrepreneurial focused students take advantage of a lot of these resources, come to visit us in advising hours, but not everyone. So it's optional, you can fit it in, it's extracurricular, you can fit it in with everything else you're doing.
I do have to say that it helps to really kind of come into the advising process earlier too, because we kind of keep you in mind when different support services and resources come up. So if that's an incentive to come talk to us early, that's, yeah.
And it gets really busy about 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the deadline. So there might not be opportunities.
Okay. So let's quickly go over the pre-proposal requirements. As I mentioned, I'll go into this more in depth at the writing workshop. And again, scaling up requirements are entirely different, so just make sure to go to the webpage for those. But very briefly, the rules for the pre-proposal are 3 pages, 1,600 max words. Your proposal needs to include all of these components, but how you present that information to us is up to you. So if you want to change headers, if you want to combine these sections together, we're basically just interested in content, and these lengths are just kind of guidelines for where we personally think you might want to put your energy and your space. But you know your venture best, you know how to tell the story, so feel free to be flexible with the formatting of this. So essentially, your proposal will need to cover 4 things. It'll need to cover your problem statement, a description of the problem or need that your project will address, which communicates your understanding of relevant research or statistics on the problem. It will need to communicate the existing solutions that are out there too. So services, programs, interventions, or products that have been designed or implemented to address this problem, and where applicable, discuss the limitations of these approaches and the gaps that still exist. So over and over with all the proposals that Philip and I have seen over the years, existing solutions is the weakest part of the proposal for all applicants. And it's because most of the time students will come to us and they'll say, well, there's nothing that's exactly like this in the market out there. So there's a high potential for me to address this with my solution, but it doesn't need to be an exact product that's being applied to the exact population, right? This could be anyone working to address like child mortality and the different things that come from government, from the startup sector, from companies, from nonprofits. There's a lot of different ways to approach the problem, and these all need to be discussed because it's a really integrated way to look at how your venture is going to fit within that and talk about your potential for high impact.
And the quickest way to lose a judge who's reviewing your proposals, allow them to think they know the landscape, they know the competition better than you do. So.
Yeah, and I think it's also helpful to look at if the solution you have proposed has been applied into a different geographic region, really make sure to learn from their mistakes too, right? Like whether it's something that was proposed in the past that is no longer operating or something that was applied in another region, make sure you address the challenges that they addressed and learn from that process. Yep, and essentially laying out the landscape of the existing solutions will lead you to outline your value proposition, which you're going to cover in your proposed innovation. So a description of your innovation and briefly cover the implementation, the value proposition, the intended impact, and how you will deal with challenges. Importantly, you should be outlining your goals, so ultimately where you want to take, what kind of impact you want to be making with this project, and then how you want to get there, right? And then just make sure to do this within the context of the time frame you'll be using is 1 year, because that's potentially what the prize will be used for, is the 1 year time frame. And lastly, your team bios. As Philip mentioned, you don't need to have your full team recruited at this point, but if you are recruiting for additional skill sets, just make sure to outline that in this section. And what will your pre-proposal be judged on? So in this first round, we prioritize innovation. And the way we define innovation isn't necessarily an entirely new product. It could be an existing innovation that hasn't been applied to the context in which you want to apply it in, or a tweak on an existing innovation. So we are quite flexible in how we define innovation. And this account...
And it's not technology, it can be a service or a product.
Yeah. education program. We've had a lot of student groups come through Big Ideas as well. But this accounts for 40% of your overall pre-proposal score. And I just like to note that your full proposal score is going to be flipping this on its head. So in the full proposal round, you're going to be judged on viability. Do you have what it takes to carry out this program? Whereas in this round, you're going to be judged on novelty and innovativeness. And this has actually led to kind of a leveling of the proposals across like different educations and ages and everything. A lot of the time when people hear that there's a PhD student who's applying and submitting a proposal with a freshman student, they're like, well, doesn't the PhD student always win over the freshman? And not necessarily. And we think it's because of this criteria that the innovativeness is awarded to.
The goal of Big Ideas is to really source and catalyze innovative student ideas and then to help nurture those ideas and make them viable, sustainable business plans, or implementation plans, I should say. So yeah, so we level the playing field. I know we have PhD students here who are working on their dissertation projects and maybe already have started prototyping. We have, sophomore undergraduates who have a loosely framed idea currently in their head. But really, by weighting this at 40% on innovation, on creativity, what you do is you really do level that playing field and give everybody a chance to show this idea has merit, it's cool, give us some time, and we can work through the sustainability issues.
Yeah. A couple years ago, I had a student walk into my office and she said to me, I want to address mental health on this campus. And I have a few ideas on how to do it, but I'm not entirely sure. And we worked over the course of the semester, and she ended up winning first place in improving student life. So we have very fresh, very new ideas come through our program all the time. So just make sure to take advantage of the resources that we offer you guys.
So in terms of continuing support, so the way Big Ideas tries to help teams as they sort of graduate from Big Ideas and become alumni is by connecting you to various networks. So connecting you to accelerators, incubators, making sure that, if you need partners in a specific area, we're helping you to identify those. So we'll continue to help. We do that on a regular basis. If you have accomplishments that you want to help get, out there into the mainstream, we'll help you publicize those accomplishments. So we'll be there to help guide you, but, you're the entrepreneur, you're leading the project, so it's on you to tell us how we can help you.
And I think the rest of the judging criteria is pretty straightforward. Just note that you do have a category fit question of 15%, so that's why it's important to make sure that you fit into the respective category. All right, and that's our team. You have Philip, me, and Junie in the back. Please feel free to check out our website, email us with whatever you need, or even give us a call. And you, at this point, well, actually, why don't we take some questions if anyone has some outline questions?
I tried to check online if you have a pre-proposal format.
Yeah. You mean like an example or a structure? So we want to be open and flexible with the kind of structure we have. So basically what was on the previous slide is essentially the structure of the proposal with very loose guidelines as to how much space you want to allocate into that.
But we do on the website have some examples of past pre-proposals that have been successful. So you can go look at those, but there's no template. It's your story in 3 pages to talk about your project. As long as you get the team bios, you get the innovation, you get the landscape research in there, then you've really identified the characteristics that we want in the proposal, but it's really up to you to tell the story in whatever format you want.
Also, photos, graphics, charts, design elements, feel free to use them, but it still needs to be under 3 pages.
Let's say that your big idea proposal passes the proposal stage, but you lose a team member along the way due to personal issues. Is it possible to take someone that you know who submitted a pre-proposal, but they didn't make it, and incorporate that person to your team?
Absolutely. We'd love to hear that story too when it happens. So definitely. This happens all the time, right? Students come in and you have a lot of commitments and people realize that they aren't able to fully commit onto a project and you have to do some rearranging. That's the natural process of the startup world.
I wanted to ask a question, maybe I missed it. It has to be a non-profit idea or it can be for-profit idea?
It can be for-profit, non-profit, or no formal entity whatsoever too. It can be a student group.
And the second question is, what about social impact? I mean,
Yeah, so the two things that bind every single Big Ideas project, they're student-led, student-initiated, and they have a focus on social impact. And I guess the third one would be they have to fit into a category. But social impact, student-led. We're agnostic in terms of the type of social venture it is, whether it be for-profit, nonprofit, service organization, whatever. But as long as it fits those main criteria, it's eligible for Big Ideas.
I think you also mentioned something about measurement, right? About being able to measure social impact. So that's actually a requirement of the full proposal and not the pre-proposal. Just because we want to have you thinking about what makes sense in terms of what your model looks like before you're even beginning to talk about how you're going to do some RCT about measuring social impact or something. And this is, of course, I feel like with measuring success, it's kind of things that maybe graduate students are a little bit more exposed to and undergraduates don't have as much exposure. So we're happy to help talk through that process as well. But our measurement requirements are non-existent in this round and light in the next round. Yep. Any other questions?
One other thing I don't think we mentioned, or I didn't hear it, is that even for the teams that don't make it to the final round, you submit that 3-page proposal. We have 8 to 10 judges reading every proposal. We keep the number of proposals judges read relatively low so that they can give, a lot of comprehensive feedback to you on your idea. So right away, if you have an early stage idea, right away you're going to know if it has legs. If it doesn't have legs, why not? What did the judges see as those challenges or gaps? And we've had a lot of teams in the past who reapply the second year and have a lot more success because they've gotten that feedback. So, there's takeaways for the folks who make it to the final round as well as those who don't. It's a quick way to get some really good feedback on your idea with a really pretty low, relatively low bar in a 3-page concept map.
I acknowledge that the projects have to be student-led and student-initiated, but is it possible for us to partner with an already existing international organization?
Yes, please do. It would be silly to restrict you to the only partnering with students or other team members, right? In order to implement, in order for this to be viable, you need to have partners in the field, whether that's implementing partners or whatever else. Definitely start to make those connections.
And you can have team members at other campuses. You can have team members that aren't even students, as long as the idea sort of was initiated, led by the student, and you have a student at an eligible campus participating.
And can the partners in the field, can someone be a partner in the field but also part of the team and be brought in on writing proposals and things like that, even if they're not on campus?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but I just wanted to.
Definitely.
Can the idea change from the first proposal to the second proposal, since there's like a couple of us thinking there's 2 proposals? How far can you go from the first proposal?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had this come up before where somebody drastically pivoted and almost completely changed their idea. So that we had to work with the team to sort of construct it in a way that it wasn't so far out of line. So yes, you can shift and you can change the idea. You can't take it in a completely different direction, but we expect that over the course of the 9-month application period, you're going to learn, you're going to improve the idea, and you may have to take it. You may have to restructure it, from a nonprofit to a for-profit. You may have to create a B Corp or something like that. But the core of the idea should stay the same. The mission, the goal, the outcome that you were looking for should stay relatively the same. And you have to stay within the category that you originally applied to.
All right. Well, we'll all be, any more questions? We'll all be around to talk to you if you guys want to discuss your ideas with us, or as I mentioned, feel free to just chat with each other and figure out kind of what ideas you all are working on as well. This is a university setting. We're collaborative. It's a great way to meet new team members, so definitely.
And cool events, October 4th.
Innovators,
Innovators at Cal. Please attend that one. We're going to have 2 incredible speakers and probably a third. One will be Laura Stachel from We Care Solar. I think her picture's over there somewhere. She developed a solar suitcase that can power an entire operating theater, communications equipment for a rural hospital. She started in Nigeria. Now she's working in 18 different countries with Gates Foundation money and Rockefeller money. We also are going to have David Breslauer, who isolated this polymer that mirrors spider silk, and he's using that to design clothing and fabrics that are very eco-friendly, and he's partnered with Stella McCartney, and he now has a business with 100 employees in Emeryville and has raised $89 million in equity. So hugely successful entrepreneurs who came out of Big Ideas, talking on October 4th to inspire you, and then you'll have the opportunity to pitch as well your ideas. So please attend.
Actually pull it up so you guys know how to get to it. So if you go to our website,